The woman teasingly wriggled out of her pants, making her boyfriend's heart race with excitement. But in the next moment, the woman suddenly jumped into the bottomless river, leaving the man stunned. Not understanding what kind of prank she was playing, he called out to her anxiously but got no response. A sense of unease began to creep in, and jumped into the river. Soon, he surfaced but still couldn't see any trace of his girlfriend. Panic filled his heart, and he dove back down, scanning the surroundings meticulously, leaving no detail unchecked. Fortunately, just as he was about to lose hope, he heard laughter that sounded like clanging bells. He realized it was his girlfriend's prank. They both let go of their worries and started playfully splashing in the water like a loving couple of swans. However, neither of them knew that as much as they laughed now, tomorrow would bring tears. The next day, filled with joy, the couple set sail on a boat trip, but then a seagull suddenly landed on the deck, leaving the man puzzled. He couldn't figure out why the seagull was flying so far from the shore, but without thinking much. As time passed, the man's expression grew darker because he received a message. A hurricane was fast approaching them. The man cursed the inaccurate weather forecast, but nonetheless, he quickly instructed his girlfriend to change course and secured everything on the boat, preparing for the worst. However, they had both underestimated the storm's fury. Waves crashed onto the sailboat, tossing it like a feather, and they felt as if disaster could strike at any moment. The man knew things were getting serious and called his girlfriend to help him take down the sails to stabilize the boat. Yet, even after doing all they could, a massive wave struck, knocking the sail onto the deck. The woman watched in horror as the situation spiraled, but she bravely went to fix it, knowing the dire consequences if she didn't act. The man, burning with anxiety, couldn't think of a better solution but tried to steady the direction, creating a stable environment for her. Luckily, she managed to fix everything safely, but just as she was about to return, the boat jolted violently once more. The man rushed to help, and with his aid, she narrowly avoided disaster. Together, they clung to each other, finally letting out a sigh of relief, but neither of them noticed the gigantic wave looming behind them. By the time the man realized it, it was too late. Without hesitation, he urgently told his girlfriend to get inside the cabin, but it was already one step too late. Time passed, and the woman woke from unconsciousness, only to find her boyfriend nowhere in sight. Ignoring her pain, she crawled to the deck and desperately pulled at the safety rope, only to find it completely empty. Still refusing to give up hope, she grabbed binoculars and scanned the horizon, and to her disbelief, spotted a figure in the distance. Tears of joy streamed down her face as she rushed to the control panel, trying to steer the boat toward him, but she soon realized the boat wouldn't start. Frustrated, she attempted to adjust the direction, only to find the wheel locked in place. Exhausted and overwhelmed, she realized something was caught in the propeller. Determined, she dived into the water to fix it, but as she cut the rope, she was dragged into the ocean. Fighting against the tangles, she struggled desperately for breath. Luckily, she managed to free herself just in time and gasped for air at the surface. Yet, as she caught her breath, she saw the boat drifting farther away, plunging her into despair once again, and after a struggle, she grabbed hold of the railing. As her feet found solid ground, she allowed herself a brief moment of relief. She first worked to secure the boat from sinking further. After patching the hull, draining the water, and rehoisting the sail, she finally felt things were improving. The sight of her boyfriend drew nearer, so she quickly tied a safety rope around her waist and jumped into the sea again. Reaching him, she was relieved to hear his faint breathing, though she herself was exhausted beyond measure. Just as she started to relax, she noticed a gruesome wound on his leg. Burying her face in his chest, she couldn't imagine the pain he had endured. She could only secure his leg with 2 wooden boards. She gently placed a pillow under his head, but despite surviving the ordeal, their boat had lost power, and they didn't know when or if they'd drift back to shore. The next day, she removed the bandage only to find his wound had started to fester. With nothing but the sea around them, all they could do was disinfect it and ration their dwindling food supplies. Feeling hopeless, she contemplated their fate, but her boyfriend encouraged her not to give up. He suggested she could still fish for food. Reluctantly, she dove back into the water, spear in hand. Time and again, the spear missed its mark. She returned to her boyfriend, seeking comfort, but the harsh reality loomed. If she couldn't find food or water soon, she would starve. Suddenly, a heavy rainstorm began, and the woman danced with joy, filling every container she could find with rainwater. Yet, as the storm passed, hope began to fade once again. Despair settled in until she heard the faint sound of a ship's horn in the distance. Looking up, she saw a giant ship and hastily fired her flare gun, but to her disbelief, the ship passed by without noticing her. The waves created by its wake battered her tiny boat, drenching her in hopelessness. Watching the ship disappear into the distance, she collapsed in tears, but her boyfriend, calm and composed, continued to comfort her, assuring her that everything would be okay. The next day, however, she woke to find him mysteriously gone from the boat. It was only then that she realized he had died long ago. Everything had been a figment of her imagination. She had been alone the entire time, beating herself and talking to herself, and this delusion had kept her alive until now. She headed back into the ocean, and this time, she successfully caught a fish. Cutting it with a small knife, she swallowed the raw fish. Days turned into 41, and the boat had yet to drift back to land. The woman sat silently on the deck, unsure how much longer she could last. Then, a seagull appeared. After a moment of disbelief, she realized that seagulls only come near land. She picked up her binoculars and saw land ahead. In the distance, a fishing boat was approaching. Overcome with excitement, she fired her flare gun again, waving her arms wildly as the boat neared. At last, she knew she was saved.